What up, everybody? After JP was taken out by Jannard at the end of episode 8, we already know that in episode 9, Tommy and D-Mac will be on one, looking to avenge JP's death. But in addition to Tommy going to war over the death of JP, I also think episode 9 will be the episode where we see JP's funeral. Either though I don't think the funeral will happen at the beginning of the episode because it will still just be the next day and they need a few days to prepare and make arrangements for the funeral. But either though there was no clips from the funeral in the episode 9 trailer, I still think we'll see the funeral this episode, keeping in mind that episode 9 is supposed to serve as a Fox finale. So because that's been said about episode 9, I feel like it's likely that going into episode 10, there will be a time jump. But with that said, let me take a minute to address the Force timeline, because either though I made a video last week clearing up the confusion around the timeline, I'm still seeing comments in my comment section saying that Force Season 3 is running on the same timeline as Book 2 Season 3. But Season 3 of Force is definitely 100% ahead of Ghost Season 3 on the timeline, because Tommy was telling Tasha about JP, who is now dead. So that 100% completely confirms that Tommy has already been back to NYC and hashed things out with Tasha on the Force timeline. But before JP's funeral takes place, I believe we'll see the scene where Tommy shoots up a church with Miguel that Diamond and Jannard are hiding out at. And before this shootout takes place, we know that Tommy is back at Miguel's spot in Little Village, and Kate, Mireya, and D-Mac are all also there. And we know that Kate ultimately tells Tommy to make him suffer as he's on his way. And either though Tommy is only seen with Miguel in the clips of them shooting up the church, we also know that D-Mac is going to be with them as well, as one of the teasers shows Tommy asking D-Mac if he's ready for this. And D-Mac says, yeah, let's go. And with the funeral being after the shootout at the church, we also know that Tommy, Miguel, and D-Mac all survived this shootout because the fact we know that they'll all be at JP's funeral. In addition to those three surviving the shootout at the church, either though Jannard is who killed JP and Tommy and D-Mac's primary target when going to war to avenge JP, Jannard is going to survive the shootout as well, because there's a clip from the Season 3 trailer with Jannard in a red shirt in his car with a gun looking out the window. And I can confirm this is Jannard waiting outside of JP's funeral, planning to shoot it up. The Season 3 trailer already made it seem like that was what he was doing. But after Jannard killed JP in episode 8, Chris Lofton, who plays Jannard, shared a post on social media with Jannard and Kate standing next to JP's casket. And Jannard is wearing the same red shirt that he was wearing in the clip from the trailer. So like 50 Cent says in the Force intro song, come back when your funeral in progress, and hit that. We can also tell from the zoomed out church scene of JP's funeral that Tommy has Miguel's Insane Prince gang standing guard to make sure that the funeral doesn't get shot up. But because we know that Tommy, Miguel, D-Mac, Jannard, and even Cruz will all survive the shootout at the church, leaves me to ask the question, is anybody gonna get taken out during that shootout? And this gets me to my major death prediction for episode 9 being Diamond Sampson, as there's now an exclusive clip from episode 9 with Tommy talking to Diamond, with Diamond telling Tommy that he's not going to let him kill his brother. So because Jannard still has multiple scenes that haven't aired yet from the Season 3 trailer, and Diamond doesn't, it looks like if anybody gets taken out in episode 9 during the war at the church, it looks like it's going to be Diamond, potentially stepping in and saving Gennard's life. Keeping in mind that Diamond and Gennard's father, Big Sid's, last request was for Diamond to look out for his brother. And honestly, that's when Diamond started looking out for Gennard, and the beginning of the end of Diamond and Tommy's business partnership. But if Diamond does get killed at the shootout at the church, then that would also make sense why Gennard is ultimately plotting on shooting up JP's funeral, because he's now trying to get revenge for Tommy or whoever ended up killing Diamond. The trailer also shows Big Smurf and Bones in their car looking out the window the same way that Gennard was. So if Diamond is killed, Gennard might be able to flip Big Smurf and Bones against Tommy, telling them that they have to hit Tommy back for taking out Diamond. Keeping in mind that the Season 3 trailer also shows a clip of Gennard saying that you need to pick a side and pick it now. That still hasn't aired yet. But in addition to Gennard potentially shooting up JP's funeral, we also know that Gennard and Diamond are going to be linking up with Roberto Ortega and the Marquez cartel in episode 9, who also wants Tommy dead. And with Tommy and Miguel both still alive at the time of JP's funeral, the Marquez cartel might end up helping Gennard shoot up this funeral as well. Either though, I don't think that they'll actually shoot up the funeral service, but they're going to wait until everyone's walking outside of the funeral to start shooting. As this clip shows Tommy and Mireya walking out of the funeral and looking at somebody. This could definitely be Gennard who they're looking at as well. This would be similar to how the Russians shot up Lorenzo Tejada's funeral in Power Book 2 Ghost. The big difference being that everyone at Lorenzo's funeral service survived because they had places where they could take cover at, as opposed to JP's funeral where it looks like they're walking down some steps and the church is probably directly in front of the street where there won't be no place to take cover at. So because of that, this could end up being a red funeral where multiple people end up getting taken out. In addition to knowing that Tommy, D-Mac, and Miguel will be at JP's funeral, we also know that Kate, Mireya, and Genesis will also be at the funeral. JP's father, Herman, will also likely be at the funeral, as well as Miguel's gang, the Insane Princes. And with that said, also keep in mind that somebody gave Titus the info that Mireya was pregnant. So Miguel potentially has a traitor in his crew, most likely Cruz, because that's who he trusts the most, and also who he had watching Mireya. But concerning who will end up getting taken out at the funeral, I'm sure a few random characters will get taken out during this attack. I also know a lot of people are expecting Genesis to get taken out and not make it to Spellman. And if she does get taken out, this will most likely be where it happens at. The same thing goes with Mireya. If she does get taken out this season, this is most likely where it would happen at as well. But who I have my eyes on getting taken out when JP's funeral gets shot up is Kate Egan. Keeping in mind that Kate is changing her life around and trying to stay off drugs and alcohol for the first time in her life. And she'll also give a speech at JP's funeral. And to me, it seems like all that is kind of building up towards Kate's death. I also hope that the episode has a good soundtrack to go with it after JP's death. A song I would love to hear in this episode is that song that they played in Book 2, Episode 1, Monster by Jacob Bakes. They made a monster out of me. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.